What is this thing? What is this? Look, it's a sensor. It's the Mike Matthews Soul Kiss from 1988. Let me demo it again. You put it in your mouth. When I forgive the buzz, it's noisy. But when I open my mouth, it's making so many noises. When I open my mouth, it's the equivalent of a wah pedal toe down. And when I close my mouth, it's like heel down. So it goes wah, 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 wah. Jay Salmon says, oh my God, yes. That's the correct way to state the Soul Kiss. Oh my God. Here we go. Check it out. So as I open my mouth, what's it doing? It's letting light into my mouth. This is a photocell. So this device is a wah, and this is a cable that's plugged into the wah. Calza says, listing mine for $12.50 after this video. Amen. Now, you look kind of crazy when you're doing it. Like, let me zoom in. I don't want to zoom in. Look. I mean, if you want to look weird at parties, this is it. Now, if Rage Against the Machine used this, it wouldn't have the rage. It would be too funny looking. Alright. I remember it. Let me explain it. Everybody here for this? Okay. It is the Mike Matthews Soul Kiss. Now, the Soul Kiss is essentially a duration of the lamp says I've never seen a more dumb effect. Okay, I hear you out, but let's talk about it. It is a wah pedal, and a wah pedal is a mid-frequency equalizer, really. It's an active mid-frequency EQ, and when you move a wah, you're essentially turning a pot. You're turning a mid-control pot. The very invention of the wah came from, this whole situation in the Vox factory where an engineer hears the sound, the wah, 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 and he goes, oh my gosh, let's put that in a Vox Continental organ volume pedal. And so really a wah pedal is just moving a pot. So just like moving a knob. So the way that this thing works is right here, you have this input. See this thing? You plug it in, and that becomes the pot, but it's a remote pot. And basically, instead of turning a pot, you have a sensor. Now, the original one in the box, I want to show you the box. This is the original one. It quit working. It has this thing and you bite it like that. You plug it in, but I think I shorted it out. So I made another one, and all I did is I took a Radio Shack, I used to have it in my truck where I would plug in like an old iPod right into the 1/8" jack, and I cut one of the ends off. Found this in a drawer. It's been there for like 8 years. So I just cut one of the ends off, and then I put a light-dependent resistor on the other end. Now that's what this is. It's going to be hard to see because it wants to see my face. Let's see if I can... yeah. See that? On the end of that is a LDR. That's a light-dependent resistor. Daniel Danger says, I will not stand for any Mike Matthews slander. Not going to happen. So this is an LDR. Now, where do we see LDRs? Well, here's from my engineering parts tray here at my office. LDR. I have little baggies of them. And different values. But essentially an LDR, it's a light-dependent resistor. Now, a resistor is simply a little component that resists. But this is the same thing. It has two legs, just like a resistor. But instead of a set resistance in the middle, a normal resistor might have little color bands and be like this long. This has a light sensor here. Let me get out of the way again. This is a little light filament. And the amount of light that hits this changes the resistance, just like you're turning a pot. So, in theory, if I'm in this room, I could control anything that uses a resistor with this by using light. Now, the first time I ever used this, I found some at Radio Shack right when I started JHS, and I took an old Big Muff, and I drilled a hole through the pi symbol, and I put an LDR in there. I hot glued it in. Someone has this. I haven't seen it in 10 years. And I put it in the feedback loop of the Big Muff. It was the up amp stage, the gain stage. And I would shine a flashlight on it, and it would like feedback. So you can use light to control resistance, and that's what's going on here. So I made one, and I had to wrap it in. That's it. I went into my wife's kitchen drawer and grabbed cling wrap, and I wrapped it over it, and I'll show you why you have to do that in just a second. But welcome to the Monday monologue. We kicked it off. We kicked it off here. Let's see. So I got the sensor. I'm going to plug it back in because I might demo it again for you later. And I want to talk about what's the deal with this, Jerry Seinfeld. What's the deal with the Mike Matthews Soul Kiss? Well, why have you never seen it? And what's the deal? So I want to walk you through the story. Basically, I want everyone to say 1988 was a bad year. Your turn. 1988 was a bad year. One more time. 1988 was a bad year. All right. So we don't see this because there's a saying, wrong place at the wrong time. And this is this wonderful thing. Economists love this stuff. It's like a product's released, an invention is invented, a thing is evolved, and then it just doesn't work. It doesn't succeed. And the success is not based on is it good? It's just some kind of outside influence just does not let this work. And here's why. This is a chart of the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the United States. If you'll notice, it's a little hard because I couldn't find a better image. If you'll notice here, this is the reason this product is a failure. And I'm going to continue to walk through the invention of it and show you some stuff. But do you see where it really starts climbing about halfway? That's 1988. 1988 is like full on fear. Like everybody's scared to death. And Mike Matthews releases a mouth wah. He releases a wah pedal that you have to use with your mouth. Now I want you to put yourself in the place of a store owner or a person going to a guitar shop in 88. Some of you in the chat, I'm not looking at it now, but maybe you saw this in a couple stores Well, it didn't work because you weren't going to put this thing in your mouth. So it just wasn't going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through when it was released, who invented it, and we're going to look at the manual. We're going to look at all the pieces of this thing. I even have, hold on, I got to prep a stinger for this. There's a thing here that Daniel Danger and I talk about. You always see these in the box. They're never not in the box. So just know that. So let's look at the box first. You have you got this situation here. You have a manual, which I'm going to show you. I'm going to put it up on the screen. And you have some stuff in here, specifically these little things. These are called, I think they're called nipples. As uncomfortable as that is, they were to cover the photocell sensor. Now, let's jump to the first ad I think was ever placed for that. It was in a European magazine. I have a printout of it here, but I'm going to show you the ad. Here's the ad. Take your mind off Hughes and Kettner, because the ad is kind of in this upside down L shape across the top. So that's Mike Matthews, the Soul Kiss mouth filter. Now let's break it down here. First of all, here's Mike. This is Mike in 1989. The Soul Kiss, that thing right there, is on his keyboard. And he has it in his mouth. And there's a Soul Kiss banner behind him. I want to find this banner. Daniel, it is your job to find the banner for the Soul Kiss. I want it. Now, next up, I kind of broke this ad down for you. Here's some interesting stuff. Right off the top of the ad, it says, price, 80 pounds. Controls, bypass, high-low, Q, and sweep. So if we look at this unit here, you have a Q knob. When I turn this, it's the Q. You have an off and on, and you have high-low, and I'll demo it again at the end. So that's kind of what you have going on. And then it says extras, 3 nipples. So it comes with 3 nipples. As uncomfortable as that is, here's a nipple. These are like rotted, like old mildewed rotted nipples. Let me see. It's so hard to focus it. There we go. So you're supposed to slide this over the top. You know, we're all here, so I'm going to demonstrate it. You just slide this gross thing over that, and then you're supposed to just put that in your mouth, right? Because this is totally normal behavior, right? Okay. So that's how the nipple works. And made in New York. And you can buy them from this EU distributor who happens to be on Abbey Road. All right, here's the other part of this ad. I'm just going to read through here because this is the first time I believe this was ever publicly advertised. It says here, I'm going to read it. This is the first time I've ever reviewed a piece of gear that has made me dribble. Literally. That's because to operate this effect box, I had to put part of it into my mouth. Think about how weird this is. I mean, we have talk boxes, but this is a whole other level. The component parts of the Soul Kiss are a cigarette pack size box and a jack plug size module at the end of a 3-foot cable. Clasp the module between your teeth and play whatever instrument you happen to have plugged through the Soul Kiss. Now, simply by opening and closing your lips, you can have instant wah-wah or mouth-wah. I'm just going to read it all. Why not? This is for history. You're all here. So the object that attracts the saliva is a light sensor, which controls the tone filter contained within the Soul Kiss. So that's the wah component, obviously. By moving your lips, you regulate the amount of light seeping into your mouth. With less light in your mouth, the sensor tells the Soul Kiss to shift its filter down. I already explained this. So we go down to controls are kept to a bare minimum. He just talks about the controls. So he says at the end, I like this. I found myself almost dislocating my jaw in an effort to let more light in and coax out extra treble. The Soul Kiss was invented, effort to let more light in and out. The Soul Kiss was invented by Mike Matthews, once the guiding light behind effects manufacturer Electro Harmonics. So this is key. Once the guiding light. We got to get into why this product was made, why it happened. And this is a hint. Once the guiding light. We spoke to Mike at this year's BMF where our photograph was taken. So this photograph of Mike here is at a trade show. And he explained that the Soul Kiss is intended to be the first in a series. Now, there's no evidence, and I would know, and Daniel would know, there's no evidence of any other thing in the series, but let it be known it was going to be a series. The most versatile of which will be a MIDI version that will give oral supremacy over any continuous controller assigned to it. So there was a MIDI mouth trigger? What? Here we go. Mike hopes to produce Soul Kiss in Soviet Aramit's factories. He argues will have surplus production. It goes on the light sensors. Okay, so here's the other side of that ad. Sorry, I didn't put it up. So that's the whole ad. If you want to look at that, screenshot it. 5 seconds to screenshot it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we're going to knock that off. Now, Mike Matthews. Okay, where do I even start? Mike Matthews. I'm not going to go there. Let's look at the box. Then I'm going to go there. I want to lay this out properly. So he makes this product. Here's the manual. Let's look at the manual, and then I'm going to get into the deep history of this because it's stinking fascinating. So here we go. We have manual. This is the sheet. All right, I'm reading the manual paper. I have it here. I scanned it for you, though. Screenshot the page. It says, the Soul Kiss mouth filter effect is a patented new effect that it is patented, by the way, which is crazy. Anyway, it goes in to say the same old stuff. Hookup, battery door, the unit, 9 volt. Now, this is where it gets saucy. The Soul Kiss is supplied with 3 disposable nipples in scaled bags for your protection. The nipples provide 3 benefits. I've never said nipples this much in my whole life, but I'm just doing it in front of thousands of people now, which is great. Here are the 3 reasons you need to use the nipple. It helps prevent disease transmission. So at this point, I think you should not make the product. When your number one thing in your manual says, hey, put the nipple on so you don't get a disease, because this is the 1988 AIDS pandemic. It protects the sensor element from mouth moisture, which I might have shorted this one out because I just went for it. You know, I'm from Alabama. I just went for it. I didn't care. Germs will never hurt me. It gives added protection from electric shock. I also never worry about that. I kind of see myself as a guitar effects eel. Like, I want the electricity. Anyway, you go on down. It just kind of explains how it works. Blah, blah, blah. If we look on the back here, so this back side, hints for the Soul Kiss. Since it's light operated, ambient light level, sensitivity is important, blah, blah, blah. You know, anyway, it just goes on, you know, pointing your teeth in various directions. Try it with different effects. You know, obviously, you can buy right angle Radio Shack adapters. Here's the part number, 1-year warranty. Now, at the bottom is something very, very pivotal and key. Right here. Or right there. New Sensor Corporation. Did you see that? How many of you have heard of New Sensor? You've seen Electro-Harmonics, and you've always seen New Sensor attached to this. When I started building pedals, I bought my first enclosures from New Sensor. New Sensor is Mike Matthews' parent company that EH actually now exists inside of. Now, this is why this happened. He went bankrupt in '84. So this Mike Matthews here, when we look at this Mike Matthews Soul Kiss, there are only a couple products in the history of the world that are called Mike Matthews products and not Electro-Harmonics. Now, this is important. There's an amp that's called the Mike Matthews Freedom Amp, but let's not focus on that. Let's think about pedals. The other thing that says Mike Matthews on it is the Red Army Overdrive produced in Russia. And this is the second effect, really, that was ever released. So why does it say that? Well, in 1984, Mike Matthews goes bankrupt. Electro-Harmonics crumbles to the ground, and Mike is so desperate that he sells the trademark. He loses his own name, the company name, and he starts selling some parts out of his house. ICs, he gets into tubes, he starts connecting back with Russia, because Electro-Harmonics had gone to Russia in the late 70s, and they were like king of the hill. you should Google Electroharmonics Russia band, and you'll see these photos of an Electroharmonics band jamming in Russia. So Mike reconnects after his bankruptcy with this idea of making stuff in Russia. And one of his ex-employees, an engineer, a brilliant lady named Julia Tretius, she designs this thing because she loves sensors. She loves finding different ways to trigger sounds, and we'll get into why and why that's important. And she pitches this to Mike. And Mike says, well, this is a great idea, so let's make this thing. So what we end up with is New Sensor. This is a big deal because that is the origin of the name. When you see New Sensor on this sheet, that is where this started, because the Soul Kiss was a new sensor for effects. But this product, the Soul Kiss, never worked, but he kept the name and he used it to sell parts and relaunch EHX through. That's super important. So the origin of New Sensor is this thing right here in front of me, and nobody really sees that or notices it. All right. So who is this person who invented it? Let's talk about Julia Tretius, 1988. This is her. In that, roughly in the time period. This might actually be 90s. A very underexposed photo, but it's here nonetheless. And she comes up with this idea. That's all her idea. Now, she had designed the space drum, the guitar synth, a lot of quirky stuff that were like trigger based. So you would take these, if you've never seen these, Daniel has all of them. They're in a video that we did. I don't know what it's called. Joshua can throw it in the link or in the chat. It's like we're playing the rarest Electroharmonics pedals. Anyway, there's all these things that she made. They link together and they're like percussive. Now, she also worked for Zildjian, and she designed some of the very first electronic cymbals. Again, this is all sensor type work. Like, how do you trigger something? And then this is her 2022. She came out to Daniel's and we actually hung out with her and interviewed her, took her photograph here holding one of her devices, the Clockworks, which is super cool. Here's the proto. This is the prototype that she took to Mike Matthews. So pretty cool to see how it evolved there. Proto obviously is big and weird. But then, they engineered it down into this little package. And let's look at the schematic. Let's talk through that. So the schematic is pretty straightforward. And it's an IC wah. So, closer in the family of like a color sound wah. But not really. Basically, it's an active mid knob. And if you notice, it says sensor probe over on the side. So that's important to notice. And that is that LDR. That's this little thing right here. I'm holding it to the side of the screen. The little LDR, you can't see it. Whatever. So that's the schematic. This is a crazy situation where you have Mike Matthews goes bankrupt, selling stuff out of his house. He's trying to start over. And then this is his first, this is like the way back for him. So we often talk about the Russian Big Muffs or, the Red Army Overdrive and the Civil War Big Muff. This is right before that. And it's super important to recognize that this product is Mike Matthews jumping back into the effects pedal game in the late 80s. This is really, really cool. It predates right before anything Savtech. And this New Sensor story that ties into how he still sells parts. If you go to New Sensor right now, type it into Google, New Sensor guitar, you'll see all kinds of stuff for sale. You can buy all kinds of parts from him. It's super cool. Let's check this out. So I emailed Julia and I asked her just to tell me, because she had told me in person, but I wanted to be more concise. So I have an email from Julia I'm going to read you. Basically, I said, hey, I'm doing this thing about the Soul Kiss. I want to make sure I get my ducks in a row and say it right. So I'm going to read this email to you. This is like November 19th. She emailed me this. So Julia Tretius, again, this is her. mad props. She's a stinking genius. So Julia says, I have a schematic that's dated April of 88. And the patent application was late 88. So that's where I get the dates, and that's how we're sure of that. Next, she says, I've always been attracted to novel sensors and controlling instruments with them, especially biometrics. I think this one probably came to me all at once. I thought about what would be the most natural way to control a wah-wah electronically, as opposed to something like a talk box, which is different, or a wah on the floor. I thought a visualized light sensor. You could put it in your mouth. It should work. And it did immediately. This is indeed the first proto in the photo that you showed. So I'll show that one more time. I love this stuff. I hope you do. So this is indeed the first proto. This is early 88. I took it down to Mike at his 63rd Street apartment. He ran his roads through it and loved it off the bat. So I love this. Mike, Electro-Harmonics doesn't exist. He sold the 16-second delay and all this stuff to Akai. He no longer has a pedal company. She shows up with this proto. Mike sets at his roads. I can see when Mike plays keys, his leg goes up and down, and I can see him jamming this thing in his mouth. It's such a killer image of history there at the 63rd Street apartment. Sorry, I get carried away. I just love the history of it. And then she says, at that time, he only had the Akai thing going, the licensing of the delay, and Sovtek was probably starting. There was no Electro-Harmonics. We saw it as his return to the effects business. So, no idea how many sold. So she has no idea how many of these things sold. I don't think anybody does. But if you look on Reverb and eBay, they're always on there, and they're always in the box. They literally are always in the box. So, she enlisted the help of a friend, Herbert Lieber of Woodstock. He owned a silk screening business to fabricate and assemble the PCBs and screen these enclosures. So these are actually screened in Woodstock. That's super cool, by Herbert Lieber. Herb may have also done the machining for the controls as well. Julia created the logo. I used to think this was a cigarette, but it's just that sensor thing. Let's see here. Mike didn't meddle. He didn't wait around. So she says, I saw one in a showcase at Manny's once. Unfortunately, the product's introduction coincided with the AIDS epidemic, and at that time, no one wanted to put anything foreign in their mouth, even though we provided sanitary sleeves for the sensor. So, what are y'all thinking? What do you think about this crazy thing? This really cool invention just kind of doesn't exist. Let me demo it again, and then I'll do some questions. Cool? Let's demo it. All right, here we go. Nothing like a mouth wah. You gotta love that mouth wah. All right. How weird is that? Like, hey y'all, what's up? Look, it's like. Wow. 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 You know, I'm just going to be transparent with you. It's hard not to just have a lot of dribble. It's a dribble. It's a dribble. It's a mess. It sounds amazing. Like, it's a legit, fantastic sounding wah. I'm so perplexed. Keep demoing. Courier 11 seconds says, gotta grow a beard to soak up the dribble. Katie, I'm going to need you to make a shirt that says, soak up the dribble. I heard someone, I'm reading the comments, a series of tubes is asking Daniel, does it work with an expression? Yeah. I mean, it's a wah, and you can just plug in an expression. Like you could. This is an expression. I mean, technically, if you want to get weird, you could take this same cable and plug it into any pedal with an expression jack and mouth wah any. You could mouth delay if something has an expression jack. So, I mean, really, the sky's the limit. You could put this exact chord right here. If I had something here, I would show you. But like, I had the Ranger delay the other day on the show. You could put this in, put it in your mouth, and open your mouth and affect the decay of the whatever. It's just it's a new sensor. That's what it is. Or here. Eddie Kid says, I think I might vomit. Me too. Again, I want to be a complete idiot and I have no shame, so let me show you how crazy you look. This is called having no shame and being really confident in yourself. Ready? Okay. Yeah, so you didn't pay for that. That was a free, just how can I embarrass myself? Okay, everybody. I'm going to do a few comments, and then we're going to, let's do a few legit questions. Let's do that. You want to do that? You do some questions? It's time for Q&A. Okay. So, a few legit questions. Where do I start? Phil, I did play Rage Against the Machine earlier. You missed it. Does it come in other flavors? Jason Carter says. You could flavor the sensor. All right, here's the thing. I already said nipple like 400 times. You could do flavored nipples. Like if someone wants to get on the market here, you could have flavored nipples. Yes. Flavored mouthwash nipples. Let's see here. There's just so many funny comments. Well done. Thank you, Eddie Kid. It's good to know it was well done. You just got to give the people what they want. CJ, this is one confident man. I have nothing to lose at this point. You've put up with me for this many years, so, whatever. Now, someone said, could you wirelessly do this? So, yeah, you could put this on a wireless pack, and you could, Yeah. I mean, you totally could wirelessly do the whole thing. Absolutely. So you wouldn't have the cable dragging around. Again, it's just a tip. It's a tip and sleeve connection. So, yeah, you could. Let's see here. Most of these comments are just crude, and I understand. I'm not judging you. It's fine. Will Flint says, coming next year, the JHS mouth line. I could see that happening. Rodrigo Blate, Kirk Hammett has entered the room. Now, could you imagine Metallica live with the Soul Kiss? Kirk Hammett, if you're watching, let me send you my Soul Kiss. Wah. Herman Liu says, this pedal is mouth-watering. Let's see here. Fuzz mouth wah. You could do it all. Mike Seibel, I don't know. Sounds cool, looks weird. Daniel says it's smoother and more subtle than a wah. Is that true? I don't know. To me, it's just a wah that your mouth, you got to work, it's mouth wah. I don't know. Steven OG, but why? My question to you is why not? Let's see here. I'm going to go up to, someone said, sounds like something from a page of Freakonomics. Yes. Yeah, it would fit in that book very well. Jason Carter, the police could use it to breath test guitarists. That's clever. I give you an 8.5 on that one. That was funny. Man, I feel like we've really experienced this together, and I think it's time to just say bye. Just say bye to everyone. It's powered by a 9-volt battery. None of your business says. Daniel says, yes, but your mouth is capable of more subtle emotions versus jarring your foot back and forth. I guess you're correct. It does have this crazy ability, like, if you got really good with it, there is a lot more subtlety, and I do agree. So it's the gentlest of wahs. Jason says, could you adapt it for everyday conversations? Probably. I think this has been fun. So I'm gonna sign off, and I just want to say, the takeaway is I love economics. I love the study of how things are invented, how they evolve, and I love the economics of it all. Like, economics just isn't about making money and adding things up. It's about why do things take off and why do certain things not take off, and what's the cause of something being popular or not popular. And I think this is one of the greatest examples in effects history of any effect ever of wrong timing. I mean, when we see that 1988 epidemic, HIV/AIDS epidemic chart, you just see, like, there's no way this is going to work. It's also a thought for creators that I want to share. There's a thought for creators. Be aware of what's going on. Like, I know this sounds oblivious, but, like, be aware. If you're going to make new pedals, there's a lot of builders that watch my show and stuff. So if you're going to make new guitar pedals, if you're going to make new devices, think about the whole picture. Don't get so caught up in what you're doing, being so isolated or insular. Think about the bigger range of topic, meaning, what's the world like? Do people want this? Can they even use it? Is there something that another person might be scared of with the product or be confused about? I mean, I even get into this with, like, sometimes people name their products these impossible names to remember or spell. And I always think, like, well, you're never going to be able to search it. Like, if you even saw the thing, how would you know how to describe it? And if you're trying to sell a product, think about all of those pieces. But yeah, this is the greatest example I've ever seen of a product not lining up with the market. And it's like such a lesson in economics. It's super cool. So anyway, I demonstrated it. Here it is. I'm going to unplug it And I'm going to show you, I'll close with this. I'll show you the back of it because it's worthy. It's noteworthy. You got a belt clip. So you put this freaking thing on your belt clip and you just go to town, you know what I'm saying? Just go to town, y'all. All right, it's been fun. Have a wonderful Tuesday. I'm aware it's Tuesday. It's a Monday monologue and you just got to get over it. You know what I'm saying? All right. That's it. I'm out. Bye-bye.